I was speaking to my friend Andy not a couple of days ago, and I brought up the fact that how chaotic it is at West Ham, and I said, "Oh, wouldn't it be weird? I wouldn't like what it's like to be a fan of, say, someone like Fulham, do a fan channel for Fulham, someone like that. Must be such a peaceful existence, you know what I mean? How's the summer been? Yeah, it's been all right. You know, how's the season going? Yeah, okay. No real dramas. West Ham United, it is just a basket case, isn't it? It is just one day to the next. Like you don't know what to expect. It's actually quite strange when we have the international breaks and things die down. It's almost weird that you think, God, I can't believe there's so much drama at the moment. You know, even when you have a couple of days respite from it, it's absolutely crazy. And the theme of West Ham and the circus that it is continues very much today, and that is what I'm here to talk about. To talk about Slaven Bilic, the update from EXWHU employee on that. And also, I want to touch upon what I talked about earlier, which was the statement put out by the football club. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about every single point because I realise that you may well have read the statement. If you haven't, you can go and check it out on the official website, or we'll talk about it now. I've sort of picked out the bits that I felt that was worthwhile chatting about, just because I felt like the video will just be far too long because a fair bit to cover here. Look, but before I get into it, if you're new to all of this and you just stumbled across this video and you're like, right, what's this idiot talking about? Why don't you subscribe and join us and you can listen to me all the time? Honestly, I really appreciate it. If you can subscribe, I really appreciate it. The target for the season is 20,000. So we're getting there. I think we're just over under 3,000. It's over 3,000 we needed to get there. So yeah, if you can help us out get there, that'd be much appreciated. I'll take that like button and also hype us up. Hype us up. That's the new 3 hypes a week, I think it is. So yeah, if you've got a spare one, and you fancy thinking, yeah, I'm quite enjoying this video. This guy knows what he's talking about. Or not. Yeah, give us a hype. That'd be much appreciated. So let's talk about the big news today, which is Slaven Bilic and his possible return to West Ham. I'm going to give you the update from EXWHU employee. Now, the news was broken today. I think it was Alex Crook broke it. It might have been a couple of others as well. Ben Jacobs, I know, put it out as well. So there's a few journalists now that are talking about this. EXWHU employers now put out an update on the situation. So this is coming quite credible. So I'll give my thoughts on it afterwards. But I'm going to read you the update from EXWHU employee. Whilst it was confirmed to us that Graham Potter has the backing from the board at the moment, alternatives are being lined up just in case. Okay. We don't believe that Potter has been given any deadlines, but a couple of more bad defeats in the coming weeks, ironically, with David Moyes' Everton still to play, could seal his fate. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. We listed some of these alternative managers on the podcast this week. That was obviously not part of what I do, but that's part of what Dave and X do over on our Patreon channel. Which manager will come to the mix? A new name has come to the mix. West Ham fans for West Ham fans, and someone that isn't new to West Ham fans. Sorry, it's Slaven Bilic. We have a good relationship with both Slaven's agent and the man himself. We put the question to the agent. We've been told that he is a contender if Potter has been sacked, and he would love to return to his spiritual home. It would then be up to Bilic to convince the board that he is the man to turn the club around again. Ahead of some of the other targets, we'll give you a post. We'll give you a post updated on this. When it develops. So that's obviously more Patreon, right? I've got a feeling this will happen. I've got a feeling that Slaven Bilic to West Ham will happen. He's definitely he's firmly in the mix, and we understand it. From what people have spoken to, a couple of people I've spoken to, it feels like he's actually the number one at the moment, the most likely to replace Graham Potter. I think the Everton game in terms of Potter is pivotal. I don't think he'll be sacked after the Palace game unless it's an absolute mauling. But I think if he loses to Crystal Palace and then loses to Everton, then I think he'll go. That's what I believe the situation to be in regards to Graham Potter. I've spoken about Potter enough, really. I'm very disappointed in how things are panning out. I'm going to be honest. I feel like I've been a bit of a supporter of Potter, really. I think I've been very patient and said to people, let's just give the guy time. But ultimately, look, this is a results business, and the results are just not good enough. 25% win ratio is horrendous. I think he's won 6 games in 24. I mean, it's horrific. That is horrific. So he's got nowhere really to go. You can't keep, and also is that it's when you look at Potter, it's not just the results, is it? It's the XP and things like that in games, XG, should I say? Sorry, it's things like that, which I try not to be too focused on things like that. But when all the stats are against you, it's really hard to defend it. For instance, if you'd said, look, do you know what? We've been losing games, but we are playing some really good football, and it's going to click, and we're creating so many chances, we're just not putting them away. You feel slightly more optimistic about it, but it just feels like everywhere you look with Graham Potter, it's just bad. It's really bad news. And I just think there's no way around it, really. I do think he is heading towards the exit. And also with all the pressure at the moment on the football club, in terms of the protests that are planned about the FAB, the letter of no confidence, the media attention, it just feels like the club have got a get out in a sense here. They can say, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll show that we're proactive. We're going to go and change the manager. And I think that's where you're going to get Slaven Bilic's name coming into this. And I'm shocked. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I knew this one was coming. I didn't. I hadn't heard about Bilic's name. I hadn't really given managers much thought apart from Nuno. Really, Nuno was the man that I was under the impression that he would be coming to West Ham. Really, I felt that he was the most likely. Sean Dyche, I think, would just prove to be so unpopular that the club just won't go down that route unless it was out of total desperation to keep us in the league. But I just don't think that's the case, especially with game week 5 now coming up, aren't we? So, my thoughts on Slaven Bilic. Slaven Bilic, for me, was probably one of 2 managers in my whole life at West Ham that I genuinely was absolutely gutted when he lost his job and had to go. Don't get me wrong, it was time for him to go. He was really struggling at the time. It was a really bad period for West Ham, if you remember. So he took over Bilic for our farewell bowling season, which was probably, I would say, most people's most famous, memorable season as being a West Ham fan in recent memory. It had everything, you know. It was a pretty magical season, and one really where we should have got Champions League football. We were that good. Dimitri Payet was sensational that season. You know, it was just mesmerising. We should have won a trophy that season as well. It was just all round, and it culminated with that famous win over Manchester United at Upton Park, the farewell game. It was just couldn't have gone better. So Bilic, I think, was just the perfect manager for that time. I've met Bilic a couple of times, and just such a charming, lovely guy. Total love for West Ham as well. Real passion and love for the football club. And considering that he was only a player at the club, I think for one season, 96, 97, around that time. I think it was 95, 96. Around that time, he went to Everton, didn't he, after one season, which was really sad at the time. I was gutted because he was a good player. But he's always had this big connection with West Ham. And I've always just been so... as I say, him and I think Harry Redknapp for me were the sort of, in my era, the 2 managers where I've really felt this love for them. So in the romantic side of me in terms of football, like Bilic being at West Ham is just like, I'd love to see it happen, because that's what I think Bilic would do. I think, look, forget sort of how many points would he get and what's he going to do with the style of play and all that kind of, just parking all that for a minute. If you just think about what he would bring in terms of energy and togetherness and all that kind of stuff, I think that energy and that connection between the dugout and the fans, I think would be so strong that I think it would be enough to see West Ham through this season. I really do. I genuinely mean that. Even if he came in and we didn't change the squad at all and Bilic just came in, I think there would be such a desire and so much support from the West Ham fans towards Bilic and his team and the players to do well that I think it would just be enough. I think our home form would probably improve quite considerably actually with that, because I think the fans would just be so behind him and wanting him to do well. And that's something we haven't really had. If you think back, I mean, obviously David Moyes, I would say, probably had a period when he had a good connection with the fans, and that's when we had the COVID season, so we missed that, you know, and then we came back and we had Europe, and we had that great run in Europe and the Lyon away, you know, it was fabulous. You know, I think that was the time when I felt there was that connection with Moyes and West Ham, but that broke down quite quickly because of the style of football, you know, and the frustration we had with him at times of his management style. So it never felt there was a big connection between Moyes and West Ham. Don't get me wrong, there is most people have got a good connection with Moyes and a good things to say about him because of what he brought to West Ham. But when you think of what Bilic had, no one's come close to me since him. Redknapp was probably the only time one of the guy that had that with fans. I think that most managers we haven't had that connection. So my feeling straight away, if you're going to get someone in to lift the mood and to get the fans on side, I think Slaven Bilic is he ticks a big box there. Obviously, the big question marks are over then, well, okay, but what's he actually going to do in terms of the style of football? And are we going to be able to get the points and the results? That's where then it starts being question marks, isn't there? Because although we did have a fabulous season with Bilic in the year that he was in charge for that farewell Boleyn season, come on, we had Dimitri Payet, who was, I would literally go as far as saying probably the best player in the world that season. He was that good, wasn't he? He was absolutely sensational. I mean, Christ Almighty, he nearly dragged us from a team probably good enough to be going, competing for fighting a relegation battle to one that could have got in the Champions League. He was that good. So I do have reservations and concerns over this. It's not as if I'm saying, well, this would be an absolutely brilliant appointment, but I can't help but have a soft spot for Bilic. So the question is, would this be your choice? I don't think if we'd never had this video, this news never broke today, and no one was ever talking about Slaven Bilic, would Bilic be a name that West Ham fans would be talking about and say, oh, I'd get him back? I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think there's many that would be suggesting Bilic would be the appointment. For me, I just don't understand why the club can't go and get someone like Marco Silva, show some ambition. I know if Fulham fans are watching this or whatever, I doubt they are, but if they are, it's not to be disrespectful, by the way. I appreciate your manager and, good luck to you and all that kind of stuff. But if I'm West Ham, I'd be going, look, come to West Ham, you stay in London, pay the money to Fulham, get him over. He's a good age still. That would show ambition from West Ham. I don't know why it's always got to be managers that are out of work, but that is just the way we've become accustomed to, haven't we, under David Sullivan and Brady. It makes me laugh when this is what we're getting, literally straight after a statement talking about ambition and stuff. I'm going to come to the statement in a second because I realise I'm already coming up to 12 minutes in this video and I've not even got to that yet. But yeah, that's where we are with Bilic. I'd like to know your thoughts on it. I think it will happen. I really do. I think this will happen. I think this is what I'm hearing and everything else. It just feels like that's going to happen. And this news, right, that West Ham are in talks with Slaven Bilic, or West Ham are in talks or looking at, to see who they could bring in to replace Graham Potter, makes the statement they released yesterday even more ridiculous. Why would you put out a statement that I'm going to read bits of in a minute, and you really, you might have read it already, right? Why would you put this statement out knowing you're looking for another manager and you're going to be, because if you get rid of Potter, you lose McCauley, right? You lose McCauley, so he'll be going, you'll be changing everything, all the backroom staff got to go. It's literally like a complete reset again. You got to go again, and you've literally just put out a statement as if backing him. I'm going to come to it now. Let's talk about the statement, right? I mentioned it earlier on in an earlier video. I'm going to talk about it a bit more now. This is the statement from West Ham. I have trimmed it, though, so it's not the full statement. So if you want the full statement, you have to go to the website. But I didn't want to talk about all of it because it just goes on and on and on. Right. Statement, here we go. West Ham United recognises the views expressed in recent correspondence from supporter representatives on the fan advisory board and wishes to reassure all supporters that we continue to listen to fan feedback. Yeah, you listen, you don't do a lot about it. And advise them on the steps we are taking for the future well-being of West Ham United. Right, okay. Again, fluff doesn't really mean anything. It's just 2 years since we lifted the Cup's first major trophy. Yeah, straight away. So they want to basically, that's in there straight away. Straight away a pat on the back for us. It's just 2 years since we lifted the club's first major trophy in 43 years. Full stop. Yeah, correct. It is true. That's a fact. I can't deny that. The UEFA Conference League triumph came in the middle of 3 successive campaigns. Already, we're talking now. Fluffing it up. Look how well we're doing. Following that, significant investment was made into the football operation on both signing new first-team players and the club's overall scouting network and player recruitment department. Well, we know that they have brought in scouts, and we know that they've brought in Carl McCauley, and we have signed players. Yes, we've also sold quite a few players. The net spend hasn't been great, and let's be honest, a lot of the recruitment has been shit. So let's not sit here and start, patting ourselves about saying it's been fabulous. It's been a disaster. And let's be frank here. The appointment of Lopetegui was absolutely horrific from this football club. Horrific. And I think actually that's the reason why we're in this mess today. I really do. I think the fact they never really replaced David Moyes, never had any proper plan to do so. And it was so pathetic the way they went about it and getting Lopetegui, because basically he was just cheap and available. There was no real homework done. It's horrendous. I mean, they talked about he did a presentation in Weldon. Well, I don't know how he did a presentation because I couldn't understand a word he was saying in press conferences and anything. I literally could barely speak a word of English. So good luck with that one. First, we accept the results and performances on the pitch over the past 2 seasons have not met the standards that we set for ourselves. Nobody at the club is satisfied with that. and the board of directors have spent a great deal of time, this is interesting, a great bit of time looking at the decisions that have been made across the football operation in order to inform an improved strategy going forward. Okay, well then share us what that strategy is, because as I've just said, I'll go straight away to one decision that you did horrendously bad. I mean, there's been a lot, but that is a terrible one. Was the appointment of Lopetegui? What was the decision made there? Because I've heard rumours that it was just down to the fact that it was basically put to use free and it was pushed upon by family members to David Sullivan. So I'm not going to really buy into that one. I just think it really pisses me off, this statement, because it's trying to portray like a really slick operation. It's gone a bit awry. But you've been here for 15 years and we've seen all this crap. So let's not try and pretend it's anything other than that. Our focus now is firmly on the future and building a team that can once again compete consistently in the domestic competitions and in Europe. We have a strong platform from which to reach that quest. Okay. And in that, we are entering our 4th consecutive season in the Premier League, our longest top flight run in the modern era. Right. Again, it's another big pat on the back. But this was supposed to be a team or a club that was going to be competing at the very top. That's why we came to the stadium. So I can't get excited by the fact that, wow, we're just kept up in the Premier League. I mean, how many relegation battles have we had since moving to the London Stadium? Now, we've been at the London Stadium, I think, 9 years. I think it's fair to say we've had at least 5. Do you know what I mean? So, and some people might say, hang on, relegation battles. But even when that season we finished 9th under Moyes, which was last season, we were really bad. The second half of the season, we've been really bad for quite a long time. Steps have already been taken. Right. This is interesting. This is my point about the Bilic stuff now. Just think this, right? They've typed this up. They've gone around the table, however they do it, right? And proofread it and go, yeah, put that statement out, knowing that you're speaking to other managers to take over for Graham Potter. So just listen to this, right? Steps have already been taken to implement a new strategy and approach, particularly in the area of player recruitment. We've appointed Graham Potter as our head coach. His role is to build and develop the first team squad in line with the club's identity and objectives, with a continued focus on integrating young players from our academy. Well, we're not seeing the integration, are we? We keep talking about this integration of young players. I thought that's what we were going to see this season. I was quite confident that, from what we saw in pre-season, that Freddie Potts was going to be quite a key figure at West Ham this season. Not to say that he's going to be number one in the team sheet every week, but you thought that he would be getting some game time. It's just not good enough. Right, I've cut some bits out of this. I've jumped to the next part, so I feel like I don't want to keep going on and on. We've invested tens of millions of pounds in our training bases for the men's, women's, and academy squads. It includes millions of pounds spent this summer on improving training facilities at Rush Green, including new pitches, medical facilities, gym, and recovery areas. Well, the pictures I ever see, especially in the gyms, I don't know about you, I think look terrible. They just look so bad. They kind of remind me of what I had at school. They don't look good. I'm really struggling with all of this. This tens of millions of pounds we spend on these training facilities. You know West Ham, right? You know what West Ham are like. They like to show off if there's anything good to show off. Like you can read it in the statement. Can't wait to remind everyone of the good things that have happened. Now, if they've invested tens of millions of pounds on a training facility that's so fabulous, you think they'd be showing the fans it, wouldn't you? You think they'd be going, yeah, look. Why don't you do a video of it? Why don't you do a video? It's quite easy. Get a drone and fly around the state of the art, all that stuff, and show us the tens of millions of pounds. I just don't think it's good enough. I think that's what the problem is. I think the reality is it's not actually that good. That's my feeling. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but that's how I feel. Training facilities, under 21 development squad. This follows the £4 million investment to renovate Chapel Heath. And now look, when you say things like that £4 million investment, you've got to remember, like, Bournemouth just spent like £950 million on a training facility, £50 million. So it just makes £4 million look pathetic. Do you know what I mean? It just makes it look pathetic. It really does. Oh, it's just so. I get really tired of all this stuff hearing about how great the infrastructure is when it just isn't. Let's just get it right. It really isn't. They're just behind the times. I'm tired of this constant patting them on themselves on the back and going, "Oh, how well we're doing." It really does made in. They've got a new community hub at Beckton, and as well, like, why is it all separated? Why is everything all like scattered going all over the place? Why don't we go and get some land and build a brand new training complex? Show some ambition. You know what I mean? And it doesn't even have to come from the club's coffers. It can come from the owners. They can put it in themselves and go, let's put a pool of money together and let's go and build something really special. Let's go and build something the fans can go, that is really something to be proud of. That when you get new arrivals and we can go and sign players, we go, this will be where you come to work every day. And they'll go, bloody hell. Look at Bournemouth's video. Just go and check it out. Go and look at Bournemouth's videos of their training facilities. It's stunning. It's absolutely amazing. As a footballer, you'd be like, oh, this is incredible. I get to come and work every day in this place. West Ham, it's just depressing. Oh. We believe the biggest. Oh, right. This bit round me right up. Right. Sorry, I realised I'm 20 minutes already. I'll try and wrap this up quicker. Right. We believe that the biggest strength of the men's first team training facility at Rush Green is the unique, intimate atmosphere enhanced by the people within it. Something that I don't like this comment at all. Something that certainly didn't hinder the club when winning a European trophy just 2 years ago. And something that, again, is thriving under Graham Potter. They talk about this all the time, this atmosphere at the training ground. It's so fabulous and brilliant. Well, why don't we see it? Why don't we ever see that? I don't see a united team when we go goal. The team collapses every time they can see the goal. And what a load of crap. I mean, oh, come on. Talking about that's the biggest strength in our training facilities is the atmosphere. Oh, Jesus. Well, you can bring that atmosphere somewhere else then. Nothing to do with it. Oh, honestly, that wound me up. This one really wound me up. This here, look, we're going back to Graham Potter again. So he just talked about it's thriving under Graham Potter, the guy that we want to get rid of in a minute. Yeah, what we got? Our head coach has made it clear his philosophy of developing an environment of trust and togetherness built on trust and togetherness. You're sacked. Built on the values that underpin the identity of our football club, including the importance of creating a pathway to our first team from young and academy players. There's no pathway there, is there, though? Because they're not getting in. They're not getting in. So I'm not happy about that. I just don't like these comments. This is just pissing me off. This statement by the club annoys me more than makes me feel more connected or what's the word, encouraged. It does the opposite. We've invited the supported representatives of the FAB to visit Rush Green to take, and I'll speak to them myself and find out then, because I'll guarantee you that I do not hold out hope they're going to go, wow. I bet they're going to come in and go, oh, it's all right. Do you know what I mean? I don't suspect it to be anything other than that. And it said, in terms of the current financial outlook, the club is stable and sustainable. Like all Premier League clubs, we must balance. Well, I talked about this earlier. Stable, it doesn't. Why are you getting cash loans out all the time? I know people say, well, that's what a lot of clubs do, but it doesn't scream to me stable. I don't think this. And screaming sell before we buy, sell before we buy. Where they've been talking about financial issues all summer. I just don't like it. I just don't like any of it. Anyway, that's a statement from the club. I've kind of touched it enough now. I don't want to go on and on about it. I don't like it. I think it was just such a load of old fluff just to try to. I don't know if it's to convince themselves more than the fans. It's a bizarre statement considering they're talking to other managers. I find it really odd. Slaven Bilic to West Ham. I mean, at the moment, these things change, all right, and I appreciate it could shift by tomorrow, and we're in talks with Nuno and it's advancing. Things could change, but I get the feeling that something could happen here. Very mixed minds about it. The romantic side of it, yeah, absolutely. I think it would be a real big boost. I think the fans would get behind it. And I think, as I said, I think that would probably be enough. But am I confident? Am I thinking, wow, Bilic will come in and we'll be flying? No, I don't feel that way. Look, have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll come back to you with some more news soon when we get it from EXWHUEMPLOYEE and whatnot. But have a good evening. Come on, you ones.